Hello, everyone. Great to see many of you here today joining us for this session on project planning. So I'm seeing a lot of young leaders, a lot of Blue Circle voices, and also many IDF members. It's great to see so many of you here today. And I'm also sure that a lot of people are going to be following the recording of this session that we are going to upload to the IDF YouTube channel. So welcome to this capacity building session. It has been a few months since the last session that we hosted. And as you know, these are a series of sessions that the IDF advocacy team organizes. Or the IDF advocacy team is myself, Beatriz, I'm the advocacy manager. And I'm here with my two colleagues, Bruno and Daisy.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. For those that don't know me yet, I have been collaborating with IDF for over 2 years now. And on top of my role as part of the advocacy team, I'm also a YLD mentor and a Blue Circle Voices member.
Hello everyone, my name is Daisy Van Osten and I quite recently joined the IDF advocacy team as a junior professional officer. Bruno, if you want to go a bit further in the slides. Thank you. And a bit further. Thank you. So to kick off this capacity building session, we would like to go through some housekeeping rules. So this session will be recorded. You can activate Zoom generated subtitles for this session by clicking on the closed caption CC button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Please note that the subtitles are not 100% accurate because they are generated automatically. Please use the chat function to share your questions to the speakers. We will write them down, summarize them, and ask you to raise your hand during the Q&A to read them, if time allows. The recording, the slides, and the feedback questionnaire will be sent to all registrants in a few days. And participants who attended the session live will receive an attendance certificate. Please check your spam folders if you have not received the attendance certificate by April the 5th. Next slide, please. So now we would like to introduce you to the IDF Advocacy Academy. There will be an IDF online platform that gathers all IDF advocacy content and resources, very shortly available on the IDF website that is undergoing a revamp. The IDF advocacy team will organize capacity building session like this one in a variety of topics. Recordings will be always available and uploaded to the upcoming Advocacy Academy platform, Sessions will be open to the IDF advocacy networks, including IDF members, Blue Circle Voices, and young leaders in diabetes. This first session is on project planning and is specially aimed to the young leaders in diabetes, but everyone, of course, can benefit from it. Next slide, please. Thank you. So let me present you our first speaker, Ines Jakopanek from Croatia, who is a YLD mentor and a European region representative for the term 2023-2024. She will shortly present her experience on developing a project with the perspective of a YLD. Please note that this perspective is linked to the YLD program and may vary depend on different perspectives and projects. Ines, the floor is yours.
Hi to everyone, and thank you, Daisy, for this introduction. My name is Ines, and I would like to share you my experience with the project of sports and diabetes that I have been doing for a few years. It is a project about tackling diabetes with sport, and it was co-funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. During the project, we have created a simple, comprehensive, and easy-to-use publication. Bruno, if you can go further, slide. And this publication is here to make a quick basic informations about dealing with diabetes during sport. And it is made for the kids and young people living with type 1 diabetes, for their parents, but especially for coaches that don't know anything about diabetes. Go further. Everything about the project, and if you want to download this guidebook, you can download it from the sportsanddiabetes.eu, and just keep in mind that a lot of languages will be still coming out. But about this project, I would like to talk you more about the challenges that we have faced during this project. And the first challenge that we faced, it was that we didn't get the funds for the first time when we applied back in 2018. And the reasons were that it was too broad and something like this have already existed. How we overcome that next time, year after, so 2019, when we applied again, Bruna, if you can go further. We have narrowed the project target group to only people living with type 1 diabetes, and to have it like specific target groups that we are dealing with. And we had a better explanation, the differences that we have been dealing, that existed materials that already have been going on. It is written only like doctor to doctor, and it's not make it for the coaches or somebody who is newly diagnosed or doesn't know anything about diabetes. The other challenges that we faced, so during the project description, we have put that, Bruno, if you can go further. Yeah, so we have made the original plan that was already included with the plan B. So in the original plan, we had extra 6 months that we were planning to, if something happens, we will have like these 6 extra months that we can make something, stretch it or things like that. But the whole project started in 2020, beginning of the 2020. And, you know, everybody knows what happened during that time. COVID hit, and I would say that all world was paralyzed. So because of the COVID, we needed to make an extra 6 months of a project, which we asked for extension for, and we needed to really prolong the research and writing of the handbook, because a lot of our experts, such as medical experts, which were dealing in the hospitals, especially in the COVID hospitals, didn't have time to write the project. On the other side, the sport clubs that we needed to make an evaluation and everything, they didn't have focus groups, they didn't have sport activities that we can do. So this was a little bit problem, but we managed to get 6 months extension to overcome everything. And thanks to the 6 months in the plan B that we have covered, we managed to do it. The other problem that we had, it was that we didn't have any in-person meetings. So it was like the group of 20 people who were regularly needed to meet in person and meet each other. We had only online meetings, and when we finalized the project, we have collected the numbers of the online meetings, and it was more than 100 meetings online during the project time. The recipe for the success of a project, I cannot tell you what is it because it doesn't exist. But how I can help you with my experience is to share you some tips. For example, to have a good team. So you need to have a good team. You need to have a team that you can share motivation. Somebody, they will motivate you and you will motivate them. You need to have a team that you can rely on and that you need to you can stick to them. You need to be passionate about the project. Every project that I have been doing and I have been passionate about, they were way more better and much how to say it, like not only better for the outside world, but also for me myself, how I was feeling it about the project. You need to set a clear objectives about everything that you are doing, and you need to have the open and honest communication about the whole team, and about also with yourself, the communication that you are dealing it while you're doing the project. And you need to be flexible. You need to be flexible to manage somebody, because you are expecting that somebody will be flexible about your timing, and somebody is expecting you to be flexible about that too. And I would like to end this presentation with the quote that if you can dream it, you can do it, because I was dreaming about this project since 2016. And now, after a lot of years, I can say that I can do it, and I have done it with my team, of course.
Thanks a lot, Ines, for sharing your experience. That was great. Let me now present to our second speaker, Mohammed Sayam from Palestine, who is a YLD mentor. Mohammed will share with us his experience in developing a project with the perspective, again, of a YLD. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much, Daisy. Yes, Bruno, thank you. Well, of course, first of all, thank you so much for letting me speak today about my experience with my project. I'll be talking more broadly about my own experience, advocating and raising awareness about diabetes. So my project's name was Diabetes, and it was a project mainly to raise awareness about diabetes and educate people living with diabetes in the Palestinian community, and also advocating for the rights of people living with diabetes to get the attention of stakeholders to act on diabetes. And the reason I've done this is because I thought, me being a medical student while doing my project, I had access to doctors. I've got access to the Ministry of Health, and I can talk to policymakers. So why not include them and target them while doing my project? That's why healthcare professionals and stakeholders, such as the Faculty of Medicine and the Ministry of Health in Palestine, were targeted in my project. Next slide, Bruno. So learnings and challenges. So the first learning for me was that advocacy takes time. And I know every one of you as young leaders, or anybody who would like to create a change in this world, is always eager to create a change as soon as possible. And we always, when thinking about our projects, we'll think that, I want to change this right now, I want to do that, but advocacy takes time. And when planning your project, you need to keep that in mind. The second thing is aim high, but set realistic goals. Yes, each one of us would like to create a huge change in his or her community, or maybe around the world. Each one of us would like every person living with diabetes to have a healthy and happy life. But that's not a realistic goal for each of you while implementing your project. You need to know your rules exactly, and your impact or your network. To what extent would they be able to help you doing your project? So aim high, know exactly what you want to do. And as just talked about, doing something huge, sports and diabetes in the whole European region, and how can they support people living with diabetes? But she was realistic. She dreamed about it, she planned everything about it, and then with the help of her team, they were able to create the masterpiece that they've created. The third thing is focus on helping people living with diabetes with the needed in your community, not with what you want. And that's the problem I faced in the very beginning of my project. I thought that what I want is better education for everybody. I want everybody living with diabetes in my community to know how to self-manage. And I wanted the people in the Ministry of Health to acknowledge people living with diabetes and put them in the table as part of decision making. But what my community needed back then as a beginning was access to medications, was access to their basic supplies, for example. And that was a shift when it comes to how I could help my community especially during times of crisis. The fourth and fifth learnings are kind of together. You need to learn when to say no, and you need to know your rights and set ground rules. Sometimes, organizations or associations might approach you, and you need to know what are your roles in those associations, or what can you provide for those associations. Sometimes your association itself maybe wants you to do something that is out of your league, for example, or you don't have the capacity to do that. So you need to know exactly your rights while implementing your project, and you need to know to learn to say no. The main challenge is, I would say, something that maybe any project would share. First was COVID during my time, because at the very first few months while implementing my project with my association, they've helped me a lot to implement a support and education camp for adolescents with diabetes. And we've had several face-to-face sessions where we've enjoyed them so much. We were seeing good results from the participants, but then COVID hit. And while COVID was there, we were not able to meet the participants. We were not able to meet type 1 diabetics. So it was hard for us to keep contacting them, especially through Zoom. Maybe some of them don't have good internet connection. So that was a problem. Time availability is also a huge problem, whether to you, if you're doing anything else in your time. For example, I was studying in med school, and it was by itself a huge journey on its own. Logistics and funds. For me, it was not that big of a problem, because as part of the medical student associations that I was part of and part of the Ministry of Health work, we kind of knew how to approach our goals. And my association has already found funds to fund my project, which was educational camp for type 1 diabetics. So it was not a huge problem for me, but it is for sure a challenge for everybody that you need to focus on and learn how to how to approach stakeholders and get their support and fundings. The fourth challenge is adoption of new ideas. And this could be on two sides: the community itself, on how can they adopt the new education, or raising awareness on misconceptions and myths about diabetes, and how can we alter the way they think. And also, if some of you are working with the governments or with policymakers, it is important to know how can you approach those people, how can you be precise with your ideas and present your ideas very well so you could convince them to adopt the new ideas. One of the problems I've had was guidance and advice from my own association. So they had their own goals, and sometimes I would just go out of context. I want to create something new. I want to use my community and my own context and implement that in the work of my association. So maybe that was by itself a challenge for me. Next slide, Bruno. Yeah, but throughout all of that, throughout the journey, diabetes had a lot of achievements. We were able to reach the community, to talk to thousands of people, and reduce the stigma against people living with diabetes in the community. I was able to work with a lot of associations, NGOs, student bodies, the faculties of medicine in the Gaza Strip, to do what I wanted to do, to create the change that I wanted to create. I was able to meet and create workshops and panel discussions with stakeholders. And one of the pictures here and from the previous slides was me creating the very first panel discussion about people living with diabetes in the Gaza Strip. Well, we had the WHO local team, we've had the Ministry of Health, we've had NGOs, we've had the faculties of medicine, endocrinologists and diabetologists. So I felt amazing being able to create such a panel discussion, conduct such a panel discussion. And that's because of the support that I had throughout the journey. Of course, social media is something all of us know how impactful it is. So it is important for all of us to use social media if we found it applicable to our job or to our project. And of course, it will help us reach more people easily, because everybody is on social media, and why not use social media? Next slide, please. Okay, so finally, take home notes for everybody. If the YLD, the new YLD term, always report to the IDF advocacy team. They're always here to support you, to give you insights, to help you with any obstacles you might face. And in my case, I've faced a lot of obstacles, and I found it extremely helpful to talk to the advocacy team and to report my quarter reports, or for now, each 4 months, your reports to the advocacy team, because that's how they will track your accomplishments or whatever you're doing. And even if you think that you're not doing much, believe me that you're doing something, and each little change that you do will always be impactful and helpful. Do not misunderstand your learning processes or your learning process as failure. Nothing goes as the original planned, and you have to adopt throughout the way, and you have to adapt throughout the way different new techniques or new ideas to keep going with your project. So do not think that you're failing with what you're doing. Readapt. It's a learning process. You're learning new ways and new techniques to do something. So keep that in mind. Not everything can be applied into your local context. That's for me was a problem, because when I first wanted to implement my project, I thought my project should target adolescents with diabetes, and I want to conduct diabetes educational camps. And I thought maybe this is a new idea in my community, but I want to apply it. And unfortunately, it was not that applicable. Even though I thought that it is amazing because I've seen it online and I've seen other YLDs do it before. But it was not applicable into my own local context. So think clearly what would be applicable in your community, and how can you apply new things that could work in your own community and your own context. I was a medical student. I was close to the Ministry of Health. I was close to stakeholders such as the WHO, such as faculties of medicine. So I used my own context as a source to go on with my project and expand my network more and more. The global diabetes community is a huge blessing. We should always be thankful to be part of the diabetes community. When we meet the common ground of a lot of people living with diabetes or advocating for diabetes throughout the world, we'll get new ideas, we'll discuss, we'll support each other, we'll work more and more towards our goals, and that is important. Your project, while implementing it, is not just a 2-year journey. I'm done with my project, but I'm still feeling the impact of my project, because I'm still working with the Ministry of Health on conducting new things, on helping new people living with diabetes. And being part of this family, being part of the YLD family, the whole IDF family is important. And it's a journey, it's an advocacy journey. It doesn't stop unless you want it to stop. So keep pushing forward for it. And bear in mind that it's important to take very good care of your mental health throughout the journey. Don't stress yourself, don't push yourself over the limits. Get support from people who can help you and provide support for you. Ask people for help. That's extremely helpful. That is extremely important throughout the journey. So you do not burn out, so you do not stress out, so you know exactly what to do. And yeah, thank you so much for having me today.
Thanks to you, Mohammed, and of course also to Ines for sharing your experience with us today. So we wanted to bring you these two lived experience, these two people who have developed a project as part of the Young Leaders in Diabetes program. And now Bruno and I are going to be presenting you the theory, so what you should be doing for a project. Of course, as Sinet said, there is no recipe for perfect project planning. That doesn't exist, but we are going to hopefully share some tips with you that will be helpful. Before we start presenting, again, a reminder that all of you can leave questions for Mohammed, for Ines, and also for Bruno, and for me, and for Daisy on the chat. Also, if you want at the Q&A to present your experience with project planning or any comment that you have, you are more than welcome to do that. Just make sure that you write something in the chat so you know that you want to speak. And if no one asks any question, it's going to be a very boring Q&A. So really, I encourage all of you to ask something to our speakers. And the floor is yours to start with step one, Bruno.
Thank you very much, Bea. So to start with, we need to select a topic. We need to identify within the many diabetes gaps, what you want to address with your project. It's important to discuss your ideas with partners before you start the implementation, especially a note for the current trainees. Your project, it has to be in partnership with your diabetes association. They have to approve it in order for you to move forward with the YLD program. But it's true that when it comes to choosing a topic, you need to choose something that you're passionate about and that's relevant in your community, and think on what your strengths. Maybe there's a big issue in your community, but you don't have the skills required to face that challenge. So we highly recommend you to pick something that makes your heartbeat, but also you feel comfortable about it.
And
then
now, yeah, go ahead, Bruno.
Please.
Okay, so after choosing a topic, and I'm sure that all of you already know what you want to do if you ever want to develop a project, the next thing that you will need to do is to set a goal and objectives. And this is something that a lot of people have issues with. We see a lot of confusions between goals and objectives. So we wanted to first clarify what you should consider to be a goal and what you should consider to be an objective. The goal is the ultimate thing that you want to achieve, and normally it's something that you cannot really measure. It's something that is very long-term, and you have there an example of a goal: improving diabetes awareness in my community. You cannot measure that. Improving, that's very general, and also it's very long-term. Improving diabetes awareness in your community is something that is going to take years. Objectives is something that you can set for your project. Those are the intermediate stages that you need to achieve in order to reach that ultimate goal. So for example, in order to reach the goal of improving diabetes awareness in your community, you should be setting intermediate objectives, and one of them can be providing general diabetes education to at least 1,000 people by the end of this year. That could be a very clear objective. And what happens with objectives, if we go to the next slide, is that everything in a project is going to revolve around them, all the activities that you do, etc. So we really recommend you to take a long time to think about this and to really have your objectives very clear before you move to the next step of the process. You also should avoid having too many objectives. You do not need more than 1, 2, 3 relevant objectives. You want to avoid having a lot, because then you are not going to be able to concentrate in achieving each of them. And one very important thing about objectives is that they need to be SMART. When we mean SMART, we mean specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And we are going to see what each of these things means. So on this slide, we're focusing about the specific part. So if you are not specific, it's very difficult that you are going to be able to achieve your objective. You cannot be general. You need to be specific. You need to ask yourself, who do I need to collaborate with? So Mohamed was talking, okay, he's a healthcare professional. He's already in contact with some people in the Ministry of Health. He used that to bring into his objectives and his project. What do you really want to accomplish, and where do you want to develop your activities? So do you want to have a national focus? Do you want to focus on your region? Do you want to really just focus on your community or even in your neighborhood? There is not right or wrong answer. It's about the resources that you have and what you think you can achieve. When can you implement your project? For the young leaders, in this case, that's clear. The project is for these 2 years, 2023 and 24. And also, why do I want to do my project? And this is linked to what Bruno was saying about doing something that resonates with your interest. The measurable parts of the objectives on the following slide. So if you want to track if you are being successful with a project, you need to actually add something that allows you to measure this progress towards the achievement. So how many people do you want to reach with your activities? Also, how will you know if you have accomplished your objective? So for example, think if you are doing something that requires involving people. For example, you are going to develop an educational session. If you want to know if that educational session is successful, the best way to do this is to actually ask some questions about diabetes education to people before the session. And then you ask the same set of questions or a similar set of questions to people after you implemented the session. Only that way you are actually going to be able to assess the progress. If you only ask people at the end, it's going to be very difficult for you to know what is the baseline, what was the starting point for your audience. Moving to the attainable part of the SMART objectives. So everything that you said has to be attainable. You must be realistic with what you want to achieve and when you want to achieve that. Do you truly think it's something that you can accomplish? If you think it's not, then you will need to adapt your objective. Maybe you cannot do something at the national level because you do not have the resources, but you can do something more let's say a community level. Is it in your hands to achieve the objective? Do you have the financial capacity, the abilities, the skills to achieve that? You need to assess actually what you are going to be able to do in the time frame that you are going to set. And also you need to think about the experiences that you have had in the past. Have you done anything similar that you can actually use as an inspiration to your new project? So do not be over ambitious. It's good to be ambitious, but just don't go very big, because otherwise it can be very frustrating when you see that you are not going to be able to implement that. If we move to the relevant part of the SMART objectives, we were mentioning before, the objectives must be relevant to your community. Mohammed was saying that you do not only need to think about what you want to do, but also what your community and what people living with diabetes need. So you always need to think about that. And finally, on the time-bound aspect, you need really to set a time frame for the achievement of the objectives. If you do not do that, there's going to be no urgency for you to act. So saying, oh, I'm going to do this in the future or someday, is not going to work. You really need to say, okay, by the end of this year, I want to achieve at least this. By the end of 2024, I want to be in this other place. For the young leaders in diabetes, for the trainees that need to develop the projects, the time frame is very clear. It's 2023, 2024. So all the objectives must be bound to that timing.
So moving forward is time to define your activities. Your project should consist of different coherent actions, activities that will support you in achieving your aim and objectives. It's important to learn how to differentiate the project from an activity. So an example, if you're organizing a series of educational sessions, each of the sessions will be an activity and the full series would be your project. And even within the preparation of each of those educational sessions, there will be smaller activities involved. And then the next step would be to prepare a timeline. So once you have decided the different actions, activities that you want to develop, you have to assign dates. As Bea said, like if you don't establish a deadline and there's said smaller dates in order to match that final deadline, it's impossible for you to be successful. So take into consideration the time-bound aspect of your objectives when putting together your timeline. You don't want to be over ambitious, and last but not least, like having the timeline definitely will help you to plan better.
Okay, moving to step 5. This is about assessing the risk and the challenges that you can face in your way. And actually, well, both Mohammed and Ines have been talking about this. We went through a global pandemic over the last 3 years, so I cannot think of any challenge bigger than that to projects. I think all of us, including us as IDF, really had to adapt everything that we were going to do. So for example, the IDF Congress, we had to come up with a completely different plan. So it happens to everyone. It's not only when you individually or in a small team are doing a project, also big organizations need to adapt their projects when there is a challenge that arises. So if you think about all these challenges, obviously it's difficult to foresee that there is going to be a pandemic, but I'm sure that there are many things that you can actually foresee. So are you going to have the support that you need? Are you going to have the funds that you need? Or do you think you're going to have difficulties fundraising? Are you going to have sufficient capacity to implement your project? Do you need help from someone else? Listing all of this is going to be very important for you to be able to put together quickly a plan B in case you need it. So Ines was mentioning that from the beginning, she already had like the plan A, then the plan B, and then she had to come up with a plan C when COVID started. So it's always good to from the beginning, think about what you can do if something fails. So do not feel discouraged. All the projects face issues. For example, when we were planning this session, initially we were thinking about doing it at another moment, and we had to adapt because something else came up. So it always happens, and it's very important really to learn to adapt. One of the most common challenges really is the lack of funds. So we encourage all of you who think that funding may be an issue for implementing the projects that you want to do to reassess that and to maybe think of things that you can do for which you do not need funds or you need very little funds. And for example, Mohammed was talking about social media. That is great for awareness, it's great for diabetes education, and you can do that at no or very low cost. So it's something that we encourage everyone to use.
And then we come to the implementation. As Bea said, it's time to fund the resources. We know it's challenging, especially when it comes to funds, but also we need to keep in mind the human resources, equipment, and the materials. Just a side note, when it comes to funds, the advocacy team has been trying to search some potential opportunities for YLDs and BCVs, and we have been sharing them on our bi-weekly updates. So there's just another reason why you should check the bio every 2 weeks. Teamwork is key, is fundamental for implementing your project. As we all know and faced in the past 3 years, situations change and plans evolve with them. So we need to learn how to be flexible and adapt. And we need to dedicate time probably to plan at least potential challenge. As Mohammed and Ines, I was a YLD trainee in 2019. So when I submitted my initial project plan, I don't think none of us could ever predict or even dream about having a pandemic like we face. So now that I'm sure that the new cohort, when they listed potential challenges that they may face, for sure they said the outbreak of another health crisis. So this will help you to react quicker if you need to adapt the plans. So as the drawing shows, is not a linear road, is bumpy and has a lot of ups and downs.
And the final step that we are going to be talking about today is monitoring and evaluation. So this is something that a lot of people forget about. They think that the moment they implement the activity that they are developing, the project is over, and it's not the case. If you are really serious about project planning and about developing something that is going to have an impact, you need to monitor the impact that that is having in your community, and also you need to learn what to improve for future occasions in which you are going to be implementing a project. Both our young leaders have been explaining the importance of actually taking good note of everything that you are doing and really register the different steps that you are taking. If you ever think about upscaling your project or bringing it to another community, to another region of your country, maybe collaborating with someone else in another place, it would be very interesting to have that and to see what things can you actually improve to make your project even better. We recommend you to use a checklist for your projects. This will allow you to tick things as you go with your project, and just seeing very visually at one glance what you still need to do and what has been done already. We recommend you to check out this IDF resource, the IDF Guide to Data-Driven Advocacy. You will have on the slides that we will be circulating to everyone the hyperlink to it, but otherwise it's on the IDF website. At the end of this guide, you will find many resources that can help you with project planning, including a checklist, for example, to develop a project about advocacy. And at some point, you are going to have to put together evaluations or reports. So for example, the young leaders in diabetes, the trainees, they need to develop project reports, every 4 months. We're going to be talking about them now. But even if you do not need to report to anyone, it's very good to put together those reports, because at some point you are going to have to share that with people who funded your project, or with any association that collaborated, for example, helped you promoting some of the resources you developed. It's very important. It doesn't need to be overly complicated. It doesn't need to be a long report. It's just a matter of really highlighting the challenges that you faced, what you did to overcome them, and what was the main achievement of your activity. And talking about monitoring and evaluation, the young leaders, the YLD trainees for 2023 to 2024 need to actually report to the IDF team on the projects. So if we go to the next slide, as we have been mentioning, all the young leaders must develop a diabetes-related project in these 2 years. Planning, from planning to implementation to evaluation, must last 2 years. So a lot of young leaders have asked us in the past, my project is going to finish in December 2023, so they are going to only work on it for a year. We always tell them, okay, if you are thinking about a project that lasts 1 year, then think about doing it again, maybe in another place, or maybe improving some things on the following year, so you can actually learn from what you achieved on the first year. As Bruno was saying before, the projects need to be agreed with the diabetes associations, with the IDF members who nominated the young leaders. There are 2 options. The YLDs can start a project from scratch on something that they would like to do, or they can collaborate in a project that is already ongoing by a diabetes association. That is something that each of you need to discuss with your IDF member. And next Wednesday, we're going to be circulating the templates for the first report that you are going to have to send to the IDF advocacy team. And the deadline to submit this is going to be May 7. So on the next slide, we're going to see actually what the report is going to be about. We're going to be asking you to report every 4 months. So now in May, we're going to ask you to report on what you have been doing since January until April included. If you are collaborating with another YLD trainee from your country, it's fine if you collaborate in the same project. That's not an issue for us, but remember that the 2 of you need to send your own report, because we need to know what the 2 of you are doing. We understand that obviously this is the beginning of your project. So many of you from January to April, probably you haven't started working in activities. Probably you are still in this planning phase, speaking with your IDF member, thinking about what you want to do. That's absolutely fine. But you can still report on this planning. So you do not need to start talking about what you have achieved so far, but you can perfectly put in the template that we will share with you that you are having calls or meetings with your IDF member, that so far you have agreed to do this and that you are still putting together the timeline, sorry. So there is absolutely no issue with being in the project planning phase, but you still need to report to us. So when we send you the template, you will see it's very easy to fill. You will have one page with YLD and IDF member information. So you will just have to fill your information, and your IDF member will have to sign the report. If they cannot sign by May 7, it's fine. You can send the report without the signature, and then you can send the signed report later on. There will be a second section, which will be an overview of the project for the full 2 years period. So this is the full plan, what you are thinking about doing. So the name of the project, the main focus, where are you planning to implement it, a brief description that we will be using in the IDF website. And also we are asking you to list 2 or 3 SMART objectives and the main challenges that you think you are going to face in your project. And I see that some of you are already mentioning in the chat that you are struggling with some things. So those are challenges that you can mention. So this section of the template of the report, you only need to fill it once this time for this report, unless the scope of your project changes. And this is something that sometimes happens. Some young leaders start to work in one project, and then for whatever reason, because they realize they do not have the resources, or because they found out another unmet need in their community, they decide to change a bit the focus of the project. So if that is the case, we will ask you to fill again this overview. But in principle, you only need to fill it once. And the third section will be what you will need to fill every 4 months. So we will be asking you again in October, I think, to fill what you have done from May to September. And on those sections, you will just have to mention the main achievements in the 4 months, the main challenges in the 4 months. And also you will have to tick some boxes in the project checklist that we have created for you. So I think this is it for the slides that we have. And now we're moving to the Q&A.
So now we invite you to participate to the Q&A of this capacity session. We will change, as you see, we have changed already, the presentation modes so we can all see each other for more human dimension to the discussion. So we invite you all to open your webcam so we can all see each other. And so the way that we proceed is that we reply to the questions that were asked in the chat earlier. You are invited to address them live to the speakers, but we are inviting you to hit the button, raise your hand at the bottom of the Zoom window, and then we will give you the floor. I can see some people turning on their cameras. So I have as a first question, Bart. I don't see any hand. No. Bart, cool. If you want to have the floor, please, you can unmute yourself.
Mute. Yeah, good morning. Sorry, I'm not that familiar with this kind of technique. Actually, I'm not a young leader. I'm sitting in and listening. And my question was referring to the experience of the Mohammed, I think, that he brought forth a very familiar challenge. You want to do something that you really would like to do, but actually the community is not waiting for it. And so I was wondering if there are some assessment tools available that you can use to actually measure and get a more grip on what may be the best approach for the community at that moment, helping you set realistic and smart goals.
Okay, so thank you so much for raising the question. Now, in my case, as part of the community, as I engage a lot with people from the community, I was able to see what exactly are their needs while interacting with them. So you can easily contact people from the community. You can post surveys or questionnaires to people around the community. It's easy now to create a Google form and distribute it around the community from people that you know or you don't know. They can share it. You can ask questions throughout these surveys and get feedback from the community and work upon the feedback. But one of the main things that was applicable in my case is that there are some times that we go through crises in the Gaza Strip, and through times of crisis, it is important to know based on your needs, what are the needs of the community. So in times of crisis, you won't be able to access, for example, the primary healthcare clinics where we get our medications. So for that, we needed to find a solution as an association to help the community with this exact need. So ask yourself based on the situation that you see in the community, and ask the people around you from the community, from people living with diabetes and their caregivers. You can easily, again, share Google Forms or surveys to ask about their input.
Okay, thank you. Of course, I'm not familiar. I think that Gaza Strip has more than 2 million inhabitants. We do it with less, but you really have to prepare your questions in the Google form. So, and it's a challenge because as an association, we were on a distance with our community, with the actual problems. So, but I understand your explanation. So go and talk with your community members. That will help.
Thank you for this
You.
question. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. So I see another hand. Caroline, please, you can unmute yourself and address your question to the speakers.
Yeah, hi all. Am I audible?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah, hi all. I'm from India and I'm a type 3C diabetic. So my question is to any one of the speakers. Actually, I want to create an awareness at my workplace. So there only I'm feeling very comfortable, uncomfortable, because the environment where I'm working, they don't know the seriousness of the health conditions. So I'm an individual and I'm not in any community. Recently only I joined in the BCV, Blue Circle Voice advocacy team. So I don't know where to start. So please help me or guide me.
Okay, maybe I can start taking that one, and I'm sure that then the rest of my colleagues will have more things to add. So first of all, well, I mean, it will be interesting also to know the size of the company that you're working on, because if it's a smaller place, maybe the approach would be a bit different than if it's a very big company. But probably something that you need to do if you are not already in contact with a diabetes association. We really recommend you to check if there is a diabetes association in your city that can help you actually organizing an awareness and an education session in your workplace. I think it's very important. And also, I mean, especially in India, we know in all the countries, diabetes is very prevalent, especially type 2 diabetes. In India, much more so. So I'm sure that a lot of your colleagues actually know someone with type 2 diabetes, even with type 1 diabetes. So it's something that touches everyone. So if you start approaching it like that, okay, something that you are living with, so why not learning more about it actually? I think it's very interesting. One thing that I'm thinking about also is Diabetes has a project, which is called Kids on Diabetes in School. So the materials are initially developed for children, but there are also materials that are developed for parents of those children. So I am thinking, and Bruno can tell more about this because he's the kids project coordinator, that maybe those resources can be adapted to be used in the workplace because they are designed, some of these resources for adults. So I don't know, Bruno, what do you think about that?
Yeah, sure. We have Caroline's email address, and afterwards I can follow up and share with you. And of course, if you go through the resources and you think they're available, we can even schedule a quick call so we can discuss further. But I'll just add a point. Like, I think that the first point or the first step to start trying to make a difference in the diabetes community has already been taken by you, Carol. Just the fact that you decided to join the BCV community, you are getting familiar with the issues, and you are participating on this session. So I think living either directly or by supporting a person that lives with a chronic condition, especially diabetes, can be demanding and overwhelming, and sometimes we tend to feel alone. So just the fact that you are here and you are part of community, and there you know you can reach out not only to the IDF team, but you have literally hundreds of members considering BCV and YLD. That's a big deal. So I just want to congratulate you for that, and also encourage everyone that will be listening to this recording to take advantage and uses of the networks that you belong to. I mean, we have some really well experienced and people from such a diverse and plural background that I just think one of the most valuable resources that we have is literally just one email away from us.
Yeah, and on that note, just for your information, Caroline, Diksha Dev, who is a YLD, she's really interested to connect with you, to the foundation that she's associated with. So that can be a good opportunity as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Daisy.
So as the next question, we have Alejandro. You have the floor if you want to address your question.
Thank you, Daisy. Yeah, my question is for, of course, Mohamed, Inez, and anyone who can help. My project, I name it, is completely digital. because most of it are filmed interviews. So I would like any advice or comment on how I can reach the attention of people to watch it and get interested in it.
Okay, I will take that one since no one is saying anything. Oh, Bruno, you were about to say something?
Go ahead and then I complement afterwards.
Okay, good. Yeah, and obviously, Ines and Mohammed, from your experience, you can also share more. So again, we're talking about networks and the importance of using the people that you know. So here, I mean, we are, I don't know how many in this call, I think only 32 left, but a lot of people are going to be watching this session. You are part of a network of probably around 800 people between IDF members, Blue Circle Voices, and young leaders. So think about who can help you. So I am assuming that the interviews, you are going to be doing them in Spanish. So that's something that you need to consider. So first of all, you are collaborating with your IDF members. So can they share these interviews in their social media? Can they help you promote them with their network? Then we have a super strong network, and you know that very well in the region. So in the South America and Central America regions, and also in the North America where Mexico is included, we can definitely help you distribute those interviews to the rest of the network. You can do that also through your colleagues who you meet in Lisbon. So all the people that you meet in Lisbon who are from those countries, I'm very sure that they will be very happy to help you bring those videos to their IDF members. And then also always feel free to reach out to us with any material that you develop and that you think could reach a wider audience. We have a lot of different social media channels at IDF. We'll also have an online magazine, Diabetes Voice, so we can promote many of these things that we do. And definitely, I mean, don't be shy and reach out to us, because if you do not do it, we will not know that you have developed and we will not be able to promote it. So just use these connections, because it could be a great way to reach literally thousands of people.
If I can just jump in from my experience of doing something like this, it's very important to be yourself in these interviews. I know that you are not interviewing yourself, you are interviewing other people, but still try to have this, that it's not like always scripted till the every last word. Try to have something that will be genuine, something that will be a very interesting topic about when you have like a very good natural background of it, and when you're just talking from your heart and not from what is scripted, then people will be even more attached to it, what you are talking about. So I would say that you need to just think about on how you will be filming these videos, and having something like laughing about and telling few jokes at the beginning or something like that, just to have something that will be attention for the ones who is reading about, who is listening it. And yeah, all of the connections that you can have through a very large diabetes community that you can build up. It's really, I can just tell you from my experience of a sport clubs, that at the end of my project, after 3 years, they wanted to do one more project for sport, for diabetes community, because they felt the love and everything what they have been doing about this project. So if you just go, maybe you can go on some other topics also. If you are talking about the topic of, in the interview, a topic about sport, you can go to some sport clubs to share the topic about that. You can go to some, it depends on which kind of interviews you're doing, but try to broaden your horizons on where to disseminate these projects, these interviews.
Thank you very much, Ines. Bruno, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, something that, of course, when we produce any content, regardless of being digital or not, we want to reach as many people as possible. But I just think that sometimes we get too overwhelmed on the metrics, on the numbers, on the figures, and of course we not gonna put our time, our effort, our knowledge to impact a small group of people. But in the end, a life change is a life change. So if you help by the end of your project, if you or any one of us help one person to accept better their diagnosis, or to identify a hyposigns, or to support, to start advocate for their own needs at the workplace, you would have reached an impact. So of course, I understand when it comes to digital, the relevance and the importance to try to make things get viral and to talk to people outside our bubble, but just don't focus too much and don't waste your energy on this.
Thank you very much, Bruno. So we have some people that want to address their question. Kirsten, you were the second one, so we'll ask you to take the floor if you want.
Perfect, thank you. It's really good to see some of these spaces. It's taking me back, and it just feels like home. It's lovely. But I just wanted to, something just jumped out at me from Mohammed's presentation around, you know, being realistic, but at the same time, like having big dreams and goals. And I'm kind of struggling a bit because I have 2 projects that I'm going to be working on. And one of them is high risk and the outcome would fall in other people's hands, versus a project that is also, I would say, a little bit high risk just because there's a lot of parties involved, but the outcome is more in my hands. How would you give guidance to someone on a project, especially on the reporting side, on how to pick a project when there's so many?
Okay, first one, like, why would you put your energy to do 2 projects at the same time? If
it's not, you know, they're not both for YLD, it's just what I do for a living. So it's just part of my general day-to-day work. But I just wanting to know, in terms of the reporting side, is it better to pick a project that you know the outcome is pretty much in your hands and you can definitely produce an outcome in the course of the project timeline? Or is it better to go with the high risk one where you're not sure that the outcome is going to be ready by the time it's the end?
So I'll give you my personal example. As you all know, I was a YLD trainee, and the project that I use with my IDF member was Running for Diabetes, which existed before, but I took advantage of being a YLD trainee and having the institutional support of my IDF member to leverage the impact and the outreach of something that I was doing before the program. So my advice to you is that I would stick what makes more sense to you. Regardless, you'll be able to reach your target, your final expectation. Just bear in mind that, of course, during this 2 years time frame, we expect you to do activities. We expect you to act upon your project and your initiatives, but we don't expect to see within a 2 years time frame any major change in a sense. Let's say that my project is focused on advocacy, and I'll be advocating for better healthcare treatment or accessibility to people living with diabetes. We are, I think, reasonable enough to understand that it's really challenging within 2 years to reach that such ambitious goal. So, of course, I would need to understand in further details each of the 2 initiatives that you have in mind. But if I were in your place, and which I'm not, and of course it's easier for me to say that, but I would pick the more challenging one, regardless of you being able to achieve success, whatever you consider success, by the end of your time as a trainee.
Perfect, thanks for that. Yeah, I think that I think because we haven't done this before, maybe of the people that have done projects as well, it's hard to justify an end, you know, to your project when it hasn't officially ended. But if you can put so much momentum into it in the 2-year period and get somewhere, like, I see that just as successful as ending a project, if that makes sense.
Just to add up on that, so from IDF, we are not going to ask you for results. We are asking you for the report, not to see that you have achieved your goals or that you have made any improvements. We are asking you for the report so you actually get used to do that exercise for yourself, because it's going to be very important for your young leader experience, but also for your future career path, because most of you, when you start working, you're going to be working on projects and you are going to have to report also. So for us, what is important is this learning experience. So it doesn't matter if at the end of the 2 years, nothing has happened, as long as you have learned from the experience. So there you have Mohamed and Ines having to adapt a lot and changing their plans. Maybe they didn't achieve all that they wanted to achieve, but we are not looking at the numbers. We are not looking at the result. What we want you to do is learning from the experience, and that's why we are here. So Kirsten, and this goes for everyone here on the session live or watching the recording, if you have any question about your planning, please feel free to reach out to us, because we're more than happy to take a look at what you're thinking about, giving you tips. We have been working with YLDs for a few years now, and we know which are the difficulties that some of you face. So if we can help you, we will be very happy to do it.
Thank you. So we have also Sabina, who has a question to address to the speakers. You have the floor, Sabina.
Okay. Hey guys, so I have more specific question than Kirsten, but probably for all of you, I don't know if there is one specific person who could help. So the thing is, I had an issue with my originally planned project because I found out there is more pressured gap in our community, which could be addressed. And even though I'm trying to think about how to not make two projects, I'm trying to combine them together to actually help more the community, yet still have the objective that I was originally planning. The issue is, I learned that there is no space for children with parents. There is no community for them in our country. So my organization, we are focused on young people with diabetes, up to, I don't know, 40, 50, like it depends. We start at the age of 16 and more, but there is no place for parents with children with diabetes. And because I was diagnosed at the age of 5, I know the struggle of my parents when they had no idea like what's going on. And I spoke with few parents whose experience like contacting us as young people with diabetes is so strange. They have no no platform, not even platform, like they don't know other parents, they don't know how to get in touch with them. So I wanted to bring them together in some way. The issue is because we know it should be involved, like our project with our community, my association as such is only focused on young people. Like if you have any advice how to combine it together so it can be connected with my association, yet help someone who is not directly in my association, if it makes sense.
Yes, I think we probably need to give another thought to that. But as you are saying, I mean, many of you in the call and many of the young leaders that we know were diagnosed way before they were adolescents and they could manage their own diabetes. So parents of children with diabetes need to be involved. Actually, in the Blue Circle Voices, we also include carers of people with diabetes, both parents of children with diabetes and also people that look after their parents, which are older and live with type 2 diabetes. So we really believe that diabetes, you know it very well, it does not only affect you, it affects all your family. So I think it would be good to have a conversation with your IDF member. Maybe they cannot formally start addressing parents yet, but maybe there is a way for them to create a forum for parents to speak. I don't know if it can be a Facebook group or I don't know, an Instagram channel, a platform. You can think about that, but I think it would be really interesting, to do something through your diabetes association, because parents are also part of the audience that you want to reach. You cannot reach a kid which is 3, 4, 5 years old. You will have to go through the parent. So in the end, they are also part of your audience and they need to understand that.
Okay, I will try to speak with my organization because I already know there are Facebook groups like this, but you know, it's like online everywhere. There are people with very strong opinions. They oversteam other conversation. And then from the experience of other parents, what I've heard, they are struggling to see what is true, what is not. Like there is so many resources, so many information. There is no one to talk to outside of the online community. So I'm thinking about making, I don't know, a picnic or something event to actually bring the families together. So maybe meet up and exchange information. But the issue is with the association because our members are only young people with diabetes, not younger children or their parents. So that's my issue.
Okay, thank you, Sabina. We will think about it. But yeah, I think as you are saying, we know also there is a lot of fake information, of myths running around. And for people who are new to diabetes, it may be difficult to know what is true and what is not true. So that is why also if the information comes from a diabetes association, it's easier for people to see, okay, this is something that is reliable and I can really trust this, or should I not trust that much this other source? So yeah, think about it and don't hesitate to drop us an email if you are still stuck on this. I'm sure that we can find a way of approaching this together.
Also, if I can just add something in the chat, Juanita James just said that they have a WhatsApp chat group for parents and we meet occasionally with the parents and children for education and fun. So this is another idea. So now let's move on to Ona Wokan. Please, you have the floor. You have to, here we go.
All right. Good afternoon. Please, my question is, my project is actually based on oral health advocacy for people living with diabetes in a university teaching hospital where I have a target audience of about 60 upward. So my question is, I want to ask, if I'm trying to educate people, is it still advocacy? Because it is not trying to influence policy changes. So can we still regard it as an advocacy or education? I don't really understand, ma. Please, I want you to shed more light on it. Thank you.
Okay, I will be taking this one. So actually the next session that we are going to have as part of the Advocacy Academy will be focused on what is advocacy and what is not advocacy. So you are saying that you want to do something, but you are really not going to target policymakers. You do not want to make a change in policy. In that case, I would say it's not advocacy, because advocacy is when you are trying to make a change in your community, but it doesn't mean that is not important. You are talking about education, you are talking about awareness. So that's as important as advocacy. The only thing with advocacy is that your target audience is people who can make a change in policy. And ultimately, if you really want to make a change, a long-lasting change in your community, you are going to go down that route of really making a change that involves policy somehow. So yeah, just think about that. Don't hesitate to drop us an email as well on further developing this this question, the idea that you have, but we are going to be dedicating one full session to this topic.
And now we have Kini. Please, Kini, you have the floor.
Good morning from Fiji. Unfortunately, here in Fiji, in the Pacific, and the South Pacific, we quite challenging for with us is the time, the different time. It's like with us, it's like 3 a.m. in the morning, and apologies. So it's only me from Fiji has been part of these virtual discussions. I think other teams are not able to attend or to make it and be part of this program. Okay, the question just to raise to the team of IDF, I've posted also on the chat box. Do we have any financial support from IDF to support our YLD, the Young Leaders program that currently, been underway? With us in Fiji, we work together with the IDF team or the representative from our country here in Fiji. But most of our programs we just doing in our own, from our own expenses and stuff. But there's more and more projects we've been involving together with the Diabetes Fiji organization here in Fiji. And the second question is, I'm not really sure whether this was part of, as one of you guys, the team presented on the, one of the biggest challenges with us is the AIDS group, or the leader, to be the leader of the YLD. I think it's falling from 18 to 25, and most of our members who are like really matured, who have the leadership, are more than the 35, are probably somewhere 26 to 35, who can be more utilized into, for the leadership program of YLD. And that's the questions from us.
Thank you very much. First of all, we really appreciate you making the effort to attend at this time of the day. We know it's not the most convenient for us. It's really challenging to balance with the different time zones, but be sure that this is something that the advocacy team is aware, and we are already discussing how we can make each session more convenient to a part of the globe. But as you know, the session has been being recorded, and we're gonna make the link available for anyone who'd like to watch it afterwards. When it comes to the funding, unfortunately, IDF doesn't have the means to fund any of the YLD individual projects, but however, non-YLD is expected to put money or to put any investment of other than their own time and knowledge to make their individual projects possible. So I think this is a matter of aligning expectations between the YLDs and IDF members on which is realistic and possible with the resources available. And on top of that, I'd like to reinforce again that we have been working hardly to try to dig on the internet potential funding and grant opportunities for our BCVs and YLDs, and we have been sharing them on the biweekly updates, so we can discuss internally and assess if it's a topic that would be relevant on how the advocacy team do this research and what databases we assess to look for potential opportunities. And if we understand this is a topic that is relevant, we can perhaps have a short advocacy academy session on how assessing funds. But answering straightforward your question, unfortunately IDF doesn't have the means to support the YLDs on their projects. Would you like to add something, Bea?
Nothing.
So I don't see other hands. Yes, maybe Lucas, Xavier, you want to address what you just wrote in the chat. It can be interesting. Also, Vicky, Morta. So if any one of you want to have the floor, you can say into the chat. No. Anyone else have a question for our speakers today? I see. No, I don't see other questions.
Okay, so yeah, anyways, we are reaching the end of this session. If you have any questions, remember that you can always send them to advocacy@idf.org. We could be very happy to respond to them. We always insist on this, but we know that especially some of the young leaders are a bit shy reaching out with questions. They think they are not that important, or maybe it's a silly question. There are no silly questions, guys. Just reach out to us and we will do our best always to help you. As we have been saying during this session, we are recording the call, the session, and all the slides together with the link to the recording and a feedback questionnaire are going to be sent to all of you next week. We really ask you to please respond to the feedback questionnaire because it really helps us improve future IDF events. We want to know what you think about it. And as I was saying, if you have any questions, we're always here for you. So that's it from our side. And we are looking forward to seeing you again at another Advocacy Academy session very soon. Thank you very much. And yeah, we're always here to help you, not only the young leaders, but of course the Blue Circle Voices and the IDF members. Don't hesitate to send us a message if you need to ask anything to us. Thank you very much and take care everyone, and see you very soon at another session. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.